So Captain Marvel is out this Friday, and I can't wait. It's 21st movie in the MCU, and it's our first MCU movie since July. It's been a pretty big gap. It's also going to be the missing piece that goes between Infinity War and Endgame and links us to the next part of the MCU. It's going to be great, but this movie is definitely going to be one of the more busy ones in recent memory. There's so much that this movie has to cover. Not only is it set in the past, it has to cover an origin story for Carol Danvers, it has to connect us to Endgame, it has to do a ton of stuff with the Kree, with Nick Fury, and all of that stuff. And overall, it's probably going to be a great time, but there's going to be so much stuff that is going to be thrown at us. And if you're not well versed in the MCU, you might find yourself a little lost at a lot of the characters or a lot of the stuff you're being thrust into. So here's just a little video that's going to I'm going to hopefully explain any of the big stuff that you need to know while watching this movie, or you need to know before you see it. Maybe some of the characters from prior MCU movies that we know are showing up. Some of the tinier things, some of the bigger things as well. Just an overall kind of look at it. And I guess kind of a recap-ish as well, in a way, since I'll be talking about prior movies and how they will relate to what we see in this. So, first off, I'm just going to mention there's going to be two big alien species in this movie. They are the Kree and the Skrulls. So, we've seen the Kree before a bunch. We've never seen the Skrulls before. At least we don't think we've ever seen the Skrulls before. The reason I say this is because the Skrulls are a shape-shifting species that I think a big part of the Captain Marvel's plot is going to be about how they're kind of hiding among humans on Earth, and we don't know who's a Skrull or who's human. That's why I say we don't know if we have not seen them yet. It's entirely possible that there's some characters out there in the movies that are actually going to end up being Skrulls. But the Skrulls are going to be a huge part of the MCU moving forward. The first three phases and the first 20 movies were all about building up Thanos, the Infinity Stones, all of that stuff. I think it's possible the next 10-ish movies are going to be all about building up the Skrulls and their threat, and leading into Avengers 5 and the next kind of phase of, or next era of the MCU. These guys are going to be a big deal. They're a big deal in the comics, and I'm very excited to see what they do with them. So, Skrulls are important. The Kree are also important, but we've seen them before. So, you may not remember, there's a lot of random alien species that get mentioned to us all the time. You know, you got Asgardians, you got the Frost Giants, you got the Kree. The Kree's first on-screen appearance, as far as I know, was Guardians of the Galaxy 1, where over in the Andromeda Galaxy, where the Guardians are, the Kree's a big part of that galaxy. They were at war with the Xandarians for a while, and then the war ended, and then Ronan the Accuser, he was like, you know what, no, I don't want the war to end, I want to kill all the Xandarians I can. So Ronan goes over to Thanos, and he's like, hey Thanos, I want to go kill all these Xandarians, but I'm gonna need your Power Stone. And he's like, no, you don't get the Power Stone, you bring the Power Stone to me, and you know, when you bring that Power Stone to me, then yeah, we'll work some night, we'll kick these Xandarians all the way around the galaxy. And everyone's like, yeah, okay, cool. And Ronan runs off, and he gets the Power Stone himself, and he jams the Power Stone into his big warhammer, and then he's like, I'm gonna kill everyone. That's Ronan. That is Ronan. That I actually got him here onto this video to do that line. So that wasn't me, that was him. But yeah, Ronan's a pretty big deal, and you know, he was this crazy strong, badass guy, and then Peter Quill beat him in a dance-off.
What are you doing?
Dance-off, bro! Me and you!
And that was the end of Ronan. Ronan's actually going to be in this movie. We don't know in how big of a capacity he's going to be in yet. We found out March last year that he was going to be in the movie, as well as we found out most of these characters were going to be in the movie March last year. And the only thing we've seen of him so far is a back shot of him in the trailers, so he might be in a big deal, but he might not be in a big deal. But when he shows up, just remember that we've seen him before in Guardians of the Galaxy. Another character from Guardians of the Galaxy that will be appearing in this movie is a mercenary. This guy's not as much a big deal as Ronan, but this guy's called Korath. He was the mercenary guy from the start of Guardians who, when Peter was trying to steal the orb, Korath shows up and just goes, who are you? And Peter's like, Star-Lord.
Who? Star-Lord, man. Legendary outlaw.
So yeah, he's in this movie. He's going to be a part of Carol Danvers' kind of Star Corps squad. What are they called? I've completely forgot. I'm blanking here. But she's got like a Star Corps that work with the Kree and whatever. They all wear the green outfits. He's part of that. So it's possible he's going to be a good guy for this movie, and at some point he ends up working for Ronan, and Ronan's like, hey, go get this Power Stone for me, and he's like, okay, cool. So yeah, when he shows up, remember, we've seen him before. Another character that we've seen before is Phil Coulson, and please tell me you know who Phil Coulson is. He's such an important character. He's such a great character. Phil's actually considered an Avenger by Nick Fury.
Yes, but that emergency was supposed to be the fall of an Avenger.
Exactly.
So Phil probably again won't be in this movie that much. I believe this was referenced back in Iron Man 1.
About the whole cover story that it's a bodyguard? He's my body? I mean, that's kind of flimsy, don't you think?
This isn't my first rodeo, Mr. Stark.
And we are to understand that this is the first rodeo he was talking about in that movie. He also mentions that he's been on stuff like this before all the time in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so that's going to be cool. Back to the Kree for a second. The Kree are also going to be the species that kind of gave Carol her powers. We're supposed to understand that Carol has probably been with the Kree for the last 10-ish years. Now, Nick Fury. In this movie, Nick has both of his eyes. So, that's probably a red herring for what's going to happen. But in Captain America the Winter Soldier, Nick Fury says this.
Last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye.
And considering that Samuel L. Jackson, his Marvel movies, his appearances are getting further and further between each other. There's not near as many as he used to. He used to appear all the time in Phase 1. Pretty much every movie besides The Incredible Hulk, he appeared in. He appeared in a great deal of Phase 2 as well. Phase 3, the only movie he appeared in was at the end of Infinity War and this movie. So he's definitely winding down his appearances, I think. And I think it's likely he's not going to be in many more movies in the MCU. As a matter of fact, he's actually trying to make us believe at the moment that he's not in Endgame. I think he is. I think him not being in Endgame would be quite bizarre. But I think that after Far From Home, he might be a little bit less in the movies. And this is probably, unless he shows up in Captain Marvel, say Captain Marvel 2 is set in like their mid-90s or whatever, I doubt it. Say they did set that in the past, yeah, you could show up there. But I have a feeling that we're not really going to see another movie set in the past that he's going to be in. So I think if we're ever going to see him lose his eye, it'll be in this movie. So who's he going to trust? We also shouldn't forget that the mid-credits or the after-credits scene in Avengers Infinity War was Nick Fury using the pager to contact Captain Marvel. So at some point in the movie, we're going to have to see her receive that call or receive whatever the hell that is. It's possible that they just show that reinforce that she's out there. Maybe she won't get contact at all during the movie and she'll show up of her own accord in Endgame. But I have a feeling that either in the end credit scene of this movie or in the last scene of this movie, she's going to receive that call in the pager wherever she is, and then she'll set off to join the Avengers to go back to Earth and find out what the hell is happening. It's also possible that this movie will set up some stuff with Thanos. We probably won't see him, but I think it's likely we'll get a bunch of references to him about what he's doing at this point in the galaxy, and maybe even set this up so that when we get into Endgame, we don't have a bunch of scenes where Carl needs to find out who Thanos is. I think it would make things run faster or just run more fluidly if in Endgame Carol already knew who Thanos was. Maybe she hasn't met him yet, maybe she hasn't seen him at all yet, but I think it would be good if we already established she knows who he is, she knows how big of a threat he is. And since Endgame is going to be so packed, I think this is what they have to do. So we're probably going to get some stuff like that in this movie as well. Yeah. We also, Carol's cat her cat's a big part of the comics, and in the comics, Carol is a huge fan of Star Wars, and so she names her cat Chewie after Chewbacca of the Millennium Falcon. She considers herself a lot like Han Solo, and so her cat is her Chewbacca to her Han Solo. We have a very similar situation in the movie, except in the movie, her cat is called Goose. This is a reference to Top Gun, the movie from the 1980s, in that the two main characters, Maverick and his co-pilot, is called Goose. Or his buddy is called Goose, and he's like the sidekick. So I think this is their way of doing that. Since Carol is in the Air Force in this movie, it would make sense she'd be a huge fan of Top Gun, especially since she was taken in the 80s. Well, we're to assume that she was taken or she went missing in the 80s, and that's when she met up with the Kree. So Top Gun was probably one of the last movies she saw, and so she would have named her cat Goose, since she was a fan of that, because she considers herself the Maverick, and she considers the cat Goose. But yeah, so this movie's going to be jam-packed, and that's just a few smallish things that I think might help people enjoy the movie more if they know going in, rather than having to remember or learn all of this when they're in the movie. But thank you for watching this, and hey, is there anything else you think people should know before going into this movie? Let me know. And yeah, I hope you enjoy Captain Marvel. Let's hope that Thanos loses in the end. Bye!